Welcome to Stockport County Live, Matt Mainwaring and Sam Minihan. Boys, very good evening. Thanks very much for joining us. We should say no Martin this week. We've got loads to get through, as we always do. Stockport County have had 2 fixtures since we were last on air. And there's a little bit of boxing this weekend that you just said off air, may sneak in a little bit towards the end. But first off, let's kick off with the main man. Sam, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, Chris. Thank you. Yourself?
Yep, all good. Always firing. Matty, how are you, pal?
I'm very well, mate. Good to be here. How are you, pal? You well?
Mate, I'm all the better for 6 points coming back from the capital. I'll tell you that much. And seeing Sam Minihan sitting there like that tells me that he probably well. Sam, it's a good time for County.
Yeah, it is. Like, obviously, the 6 points is big. 2 long away trips goes without saying. It weren't probably the most enjoyable games to watch from a neutral point of view, or for either side really, in both games. But I think the main thing is just to grind results out. I think that's a sign of a team that are going places. And I remember the promotion winning season, looking back on that team, trying to draw comparisons. There were games there where it was ugly, it was difficult, but you just find a way to win, and that's what it's about ultimately. That's what we want as players and as fans. I know that's what they want. They want the success, and we want it quickly. So it's all about winning at the end of the day. And obviously, to be where we are in the league with so many games in hand, and then obviously the cup runs and that momentum that we just created, it's all good. It's all good.
Matt, you've played in successful teams, Stockport County as well as other places. Is Sam? Can you relate to that? Talk about momentum and just keeping the ball rolling.
Yeah, of course. If you look at the last 2 fixtures, it seems to correlate with any side that does well. We're winning away from home as well. So, we're getting the rub of the green as well. Some of those Bromley chances, they had plenty of chances where they could have equalled things out. And 2 or 3 inches to the left or to the right, one of those shots hits the post and goes in, the game changes. It's going our way at the minute. It's going our way because I think there's good energy around the club. Home and away, we're doing the business, and it seems to be snowballing. So absolutely, it's wicked at the minute.
Is that how it feels in camp, Sam? Rub the green and things going our way.
Yeah, yes and no. I get what you're saying. I'm a big believer in you make your own luck sometimes as well, and teams that seem to fall out of luck, maybe that happens for a reason. So I do agree. There's been times when you think we've got a bit lucky there. I think you get that in games, but then there's a lot looking back on the last 2 games where you probably think, well, we could have had 5 or 6 on top of that, and some decisions and stuff like that. So yeah, I think we have been lucky to a degree, but then I do think a lot of that is you create your own luck a lot of the time, and I think we've done that with the sort of the relentlessness. I've used that word quite a lot with our team, because I do feel like we're quite relentless in the way that even if we go a goal down, which we have done quite a few times this season, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, Barnet equalised, and you sort of get that feeling. Matt, you might have had it as well, where you go a goal down or be equalised, and you don't feel that panic, because you know that you've got enough, and you've got the trust in your teammates to get that other goal to win the game. And I feel like we have that this season, and we had that, and again going back to that promotion and all of the seasons, to be honest, since I've been here.
You remind me, Sam, of an interview we did over the summer when we did the Legend series. We had all these different players on from 2007 and 8 through the 90s and anywhere else in between. And the common theme that the successful players from those teams was they didn't fear anyone. And if a goal came, like you just basically just said, if we go behind or if we're drawing, there's no panic, because you've just got this belief. It's not arrogance, it's not cockiness, it's not delusion. It's just okay. You just keep on going. And if you've got that in your team, you're a dangerous team.
Yeah, and I think part of that comes to confidence in everyone around you. It's not just confidence in your strikers to get the goals. It's confidence in your goalkeeper to make those crucial saves. Like I thought against Barnet, I think Ben went under the radar. The early saves that he made kept us in the game, and he's done a lot of that since the time I've been here. And obviously confidence in your back line that we're going to clear all of the crosses, win our headers, win our battles, the midfield to work for each other. And I just think it's that sort of respect and knowingness that everyone around you is going to put in that shift and bring their own quality to the table. And you see it every single day in training, and then obviously when it comes to a game, all of that comes out, and that means a lot, and that counts for a lot, and that gives you that, like you say, it's not arrogance, it's just confidence in what you are doing and what we're building, and I think that sort of translates out onto the pitch.
Subject to a pretty nasty tackle against Barnet. You doing okay?
I'm fine, yeah. I could be better. Like we spoke about off air, didn't we, about the tackle, and it was, I don't know, it's people make their own minds up. Obviously, I've managed to ride it quite well, and then looking back, it probably looks like a bad one, and probably does deserve the red card. Looking back, but in the heat of the moment, I sort of managed to see it coming and ride the tackle, and then I think I took an elbow off Effie Young as well, which probably hurt more, to be honest. I think he saw me come in, and his elbow tasted really nice. So, but no, I'm fighting fit, and I'm feeling good.
I mean, I don't want to go over your injuries and stuff, Mike, but you were obviously talking about how you take tackles differently. Yeah. You know, sometimes you can ride them if your legs are planted. You know, sometimes it's more not the tackle but the way you land. There's just so many things that can go wrong.
Of course.
Did you wince a bit when you saw a couple of them coming in?
No, not at all. No, following my broken leg, I do actually remember the first tackle I made in training. It was about 7 or 8 months after, so it was when I just started to join in with the lads again. And I was like, oh, okay, I can still tackle, and my leg's not going to break, you know. So you just get on with it. But to be honest, no difference mentally, because I think I thought to myself, I'm in the wrong game here if I can't tackle. So need to squash that early, and did that, and then got on with things. But when I watch things on telly now and I see bad tackles, I think it's given me a bit of a sharper eye to see what's a fair tackle, what's not a fair tackle, what's reckless, what's necessary, and I just think the one on you, Sam, there was, in my opinion, it was dangerous. If I was a referee, it's a red card for me. If I was Jim Gannon, I'd be raging. It wasn't overly high, but it looked like he'd set out to go right through you, sort of thing, play the ball or not, and on that basis.
Sorry, mate. It's like we said as well. I think obviously if you watch the about 5 or 10 seconds beforehand, he gives the ball away, and I sort of nip in, and then we're on the break. And I think it's that frustration of giving the ball away maybe that sort of led him into it. But again, going back to the gaffer, that's why he's so big on discipline. I think obviously you'll know about it yourselves, listen to his interviews and stuff. But it's interesting to actually hear the logic behind why he thinks discipline is so important, and it's. A lot of it, I completely agree with. Sort of, you lose a player, which probably costs them the game. He then misses the next couple of games. Obviously injuring players and all that sort of stuff. But giving the set pieces away or whatever it is, it's interesting to sort of learn the logic, and then sort of it all makes sense and sort of clicks.
Yeah, it's all about percentages in a game. In a game that tight, and most games in the National League are very tight. It's about percentages and tipping it in your favour. And, let's say when the first ball's kicked, it's a 50-50, and then you get a man sent off, it turns into a 70-30 all of a sudden because they sort of group up in their 2 banks of 4. I've 9 men behind the ball, a lone striker up the pitch, and immediately we're piling the pressure on, and you've got a different game to what you had 5 minutes ago. It's definitely a game changer.
Was Jim like that when you played there, Matty? Was because I mean, we look at previous years. I think I'm right in saying, Sam, you'll know if I'm wrong here, but the last 2 seasons count if not the fair play league in the division. We certainly in the season we won the league. Was Jim like that when you played with him, Matty? Was he very much of that mindset then? Yeah,
I don't think it's a mindset of he doesn't want people to be aggressive. I don't think you can play at that level without having an edge to you. But I think it's a mindset of not giving needless free kicks away. He used to cane us when we give a free kick away. If we lunged in, and missed time something, when we didn't need to lunge in, and then all of a sudden in a 0-0 game or a 1-1 game, you're up against these giants. They're whipping a free kick into the box. They're just putting us under pressure. He hated that, and understandably, I'd do exactly the same thing if I was a manager. Not too bad up the pitch in the final third, but in your middle third or your own third, if you're giving needless free kicks away, he would go mad. And like I say, I don't think it's the fact that he wasn't of an aggressive mindset. You need your ratters in the team, you need your ball winners and people who break up play. But I just don't think he wanted. I think he'd much rather you stand up and you show him backwards. Everything he did was from a tactical sort of shape perspective. If you take a player out of the game by lunging in, then immediately you're overloaded somewhere, and that's how he'd see things.
Just want to say, Sam, just looking at County's form and the fixtures coming up, but it's now 5 wins on the spin, including the Yeovil game. Things are looking really healthy. We had the month, I don't know what the right word is, the month break, the month lockdown, the month whatever it was because of COVID. So there is some catching up to do, which leaves County in a position that that's probably unfair at the moment because there's all that time to catch up. But I guess other teams will probably go through that in their own stages in the season as well. But the form table, the way things are going, it looks really impressive. And we know what's gone on over the summer with the investment and the change up and everything else. But it looks like we're matching that on the pitch now. Yeah,
and I think if you look at the finer details of that as well, so you talk about the break, a lot of teams will probably struggle with the 2-week break and obviously it being away from training and all that sort of stuff. And then to come back and then the first game was Yeovil and some of the lads have played 120 minutes there. That's the first game back. And then a week later, obviously you're back to it in the league. And I think to sort of have that run beforehand, go on a little break and then come back and still manage to sort of play at that intensity and get the results is credit to the boys and the staff and everyone there. And like you touched on before, I think obviously with the new takeover and stuff, it was really exciting times and it's what everyone deserves. But it's sort of putting that, I've always said, it's putting that into action then, because there's that expectation no matter what. And then obviously this is probably give it a bit extra on top of that. So for us to sort of be carrying that out and turning those sort of like expectations into a reality is something that we should be proud of. But it's still, the job's still not done, as they say. So we need to keep doing what we're doing and keep adding, because ultimately that's what I think gets you success. So the signs are really good, but there's still a lot of time, a lot of matches to be played. But it is like you say, it's looking really positive, and the buzz and the vibe around training and the games and stuff is just second to none. And yeah, we just want to keep kicking on.
Just a quick one on Sutton next up. Do you know much about them? Do you know what they're about?
Obviously, the gaffer's sort of like looked into them as he does with every team, and we've been working on a few things in training.
You will do by tomorrow.
Well, exactly, yeah. There'll be a lot of that tomorrow. Yeah. Make sure I'm alive and awake for that, because there's a lot of detail to take in.
Yeah.
But it's all good, and it sort of gives us that edge. We know they've got a few threats. But we also know they've got a few weaknesses as well, so that's what we sort of we look at. And like I say, I think we back ourselves against anyone. I remember playing them last season. I think we went on a bit of a bad spell and we didn't win him like a full month, maybe I think it was. And then they were the first game where we managed to pick up a point at their place. They've got some good players, and I can remember the style of play, and I don't think they've changed too much since last season. So there's certain things that you remember when you play against the team that you've already played. But yeah, we've done our homework, and we'll do a bit more work on it tomorrow and be ready for it.
Just there quickly, I know I'm kind of speaking a lot here at the moment. Sorry, Matt, but one of the things I wanted to ask was West Ham in the cup. I mean, your personal season in the FA Cup has been a roller coaster of a month.
Yeah. Cheers, Chris. Yeah, go on.
No.
What's up, mate?
Not bringing up any specific instances. When you saw that draw for West Ham, can you just give us a brief insight into what was running through your own mind when that ball was drawn out and Robbie Savage gave a bit of a cheer?
Yeah, I want to know this as well, mate, because I never got a Prem club in the FA Cup. So
yeah, do you know what? It was just like you sort of have a minute where you're like, "What's just happened?" Sort of, it's weird. It's like obviously we were the first ball out, so you're having a home draw, and then you're thinking about, well, we were quite early on as well, so I was like, it could literally be anyone. And then obviously all the thoughts run around your mind. And then I saw West Ham and I was like, I had to like sort of do a double check. And then when I found out again that obviously we've got a Premier League team, it's probably going to be on telly. It's the third round. It's a chance to play against some of the best players from all over the world. And it's, for me and for the boys, that's something that doesn't come around very often, if ever. So, I mean, we've made the second round a few times. I've had a couple of decent little runs in the cup when I was at Worcester, but this just trumps it all. And to be playing against a team like West Ham, one of my good mates is actually the analyst there, so I dropped him a message straight away, and he gave me a bit of stick straight away. But it'll just be a great occasion for everyone. One that we're looking forward to. We know there's a lot of football to be played before that, which will be our main focus, but we are sort of all really excited for that and the day itself, and just a chance to play against, I guess, some of the best players in the country and in the world, and in front of fans hopefully as well, which would be amazing.
It was something, wasn't it, Matt? When that ball came out.
Top draw. You can't ask for more, can you? It's what football's all about. It's a short career, so these are the games that you want, and you're going into this game with absolutely nothing to lose. You're high flying in the National League. You know they're doing very well in the Prem, so there's no expectations whatsoever. And I honestly don't think they'll put any sort of weak inside out. I think they'll know that we'll be coming to turn them over. You know, and got a good game on our hands.
Call me deluded, right? And you both played with Jim at County. You both know a hell of a lot more about how he works and how he operates. And maybe I'm completely biased because I've followed County my whole life. I genuinely, I'm not just saying this because you're on the line. I genuinely believe we can get a result against them. We spoke all over the last few weeks about if we get a Premier League team, and I think it was Paul Turnbull was saying the other week, Matty, how of course Jim could have gone and managed in the Prem. You know, you look at all the managers that have managed in the Prem since the beginning. Jim is tactically up there with you would never put him at the bottom of that list,
and does it on a smaller budget as well. So
exactly. Now, Sam, maybe a couple of years ago, we'd have been saying, okay, well, tactically, Jim and David Moyes, that's an interesting discussion, but part-time players against full-time Premier League opposition, the fitness will probably overrule that. But now we're full-time. We've got players who are used to being full-time. The transition has not just happened. This has been a good 18 months or so now in the making of this hybrid to full-time. And as you touched on at the beginning there, we've got this awesome momentum, assuming it's still going on when the game comes around. I'll put it to both of you. I'll start with you, Sam. I genuinely believe we can go out and do this.
I mean, so I'm sort of player, and it might sound crazy to some people, but I just believe I'll win every game, and like obviously you don't do, but I genuinely do, and it doesn't matter who you're playing against. It's just something that I've always sort of got into a game thinking, and I believe a lot of the boys will be similar in that respect, and that's no disrespect to who we're playing against, because we're fully aware of who we're playing against. But like you say, football is very much a confidence game, and if you don't know what's going to happen in between now and then, but our confidence is sky high, and I think that'll sort of continue into that game. I don't know where they'll be at, but like you've touched on, since the takeover, I can't begin to tell you how professional the club's become. Not that it wasn't prior to that, but it's just sort of taken the next level where we are training probably like a Championship Premier League club. We're being looked after like a club from that level. So I think what you're trying to say there is we've sort of got a manager and people around, staff and people around us that are trying to sort of lead us into that sort of elite mentality, because that's ultimately where the club's heading, and that's where we want to end up. So they're sort of treating us now like we are a West Ham United, for example, and that might sound crazy, but I think with all of that training, the full time, and everything that surrounds that, I think we'll go into the game looking to cause an upset. And again, no disrespect to obviously our opponents, because we're fully aware of who they are and the sort of players that they are, but we'll try and find again some weaknesses, and we'll just give it our all, and who knows?
Matty, am I being biased, or Do we genuinely have a dog in this fight?
No, there's no way on earth you can say you're being biased after our sort of recent form. Absolutely not. We have to be realistic. We're going to be the underdogs. I think it's going to come down to two things. I think it's going to come down to we have to stay in the game in the first half. So I don't think we can concede, because it's a mentality shift. If we concede, they'll settle down and control the game because they're very good players at an elite level. So I don't think we can concede. We have to basically stay in it from the off. And I think these might be minimal, but I think we have to. Well, it's quite obvious. We have to take out any chance we get. Chances. It's a 90-minute match at the end of the day. Anything can happen in 90 minutes. So we've got a great chance. Nothing to lose. We're going to be underdogs. Stay in the game. Take your chances. You've got every chance.
Before we move on, Sam, I'm going to stick my neck out here and stand to sound very stupid if I've got this wrong. Wasn't there a story a couple of seasons ago about you and Wolfsburg, or you had some tie with a German club?
No, you're sort of right. You're sort of right. Yeah, was it a Bulgarian club? I think yeah. So basically, quite a funny story actually. So obviously, with my Wikipedia page, anyone can edit Wikipedia pages, and basically, my dad played in a Sunday League team back in the day, and it was called, I can't remember the exact name, but Cska Sofia, that was it. Cska Sofia.
Okay, right, yeah, that's it.
And so his pub team name was Cska Sofia or whatever it is, the club. So his mate's gone on my Wikipedia page and added an insert into it saying Minihan's dad played for Cska Sofia alongside, and then he lists all his mates' names with full V on the end, basically to make them sound like the Bulgarian. And ever since then, I guess when people do the research, I remember I've done a few interviews in the past, and I know when we played on BT, I think it was a couple of seasons ago against Hartlepool, someone actually brought it up, and it was like, I'm getting messages saying I didn't realise you were Bulgarian, or I'm like, listen, I genuinely am not, but that's the story behind it. It sort of stuck with me, and I could probably pass as Bulgarian, to be fair, but yeah, it's not true though. Unfortunately, it's not true, because it would have been a pretty funny story to tell, but yeah, that wasn't.
Now, Matty, Christmas quiz comes around. True or false round? Did Sam Minihan play for the Cska Sofia, or did his dad?
I'm still gonna go with yes, because he's technically not wrong. Technically not wrong.
Technically not, no.
Alongside Dave.
Little bending of the truth. We'll get the VAR. Little bending of the truth, mate.
I wish it was true. I'd love it to be true, but it's just not.
Bill Brownov and yeah. A good team. Let's move away from the football. Sam, we've touched on it at the top of the show there. It's no secret. Certainly, I'm a bit of a boxing nut. Matty, we know about your professional career moving from football into the boxing world, and of course, throwing us those the trivia questions in the quiz this week. Well, you're a man of the sport yourself, but people may not know this. But Sam, you're a bit of a follower of the gentleman's sport as well. I know that you have good conversations with the likes of Nick Donnelly in-house at County about this fight and that fight. There's quite a big one this weekend. You got any feelings on the AJ fight?
I think like everything with AJ, when he goes into a fight, you're just never sure, and that's what makes it exciting, I guess. He's obviously had a big break. I was watching a few interviews that he had with Johnny Nelson recently, and he's sort of talking about how he used that time to sort of find himself again, and sort of mentally and physically feels like he's in a better place. And I sort of believe what he says. I think he's a really intelligent bloke, which really impresses me about AJ, probably more than most boxers. He's just sort of seems to have that intelligence going into fights, and he sort of does his homework. And physically, you can't question him and that sort of stuff. But like you say, when he gets rocked, he sort of you never know what's going to happen. And I don't know a lot about Usyk, but seeing a few of his clips and stuff, he looks quite sharp, and he looks like he has got one of those punches in him. So I'd like to think AJ is going to come out on top, but like I remember watching Amir Khan back in the day, you just never knew because of his chin and the way that he was sometimes. So It makes for an exciting fight, but like you say, you never know.
We should say it's not Usyk, it's your countryman, Bulgarian Kubrat Pulev.
Oh, of course. Apologies. That sums my boxing knowledge up. There you go. Stick to football with me.
But I imagine that you Bulgarians stick together. But Matty, hey, listen, it's a hell of a fight, and like Sam said, you take Joshua's last 2 fights, and you've got chalk and cheese. I mean, fair point. Don't know what's coming.
Absolutely, yeah. I think every fight he has now, between now and him retiring, is going to get bigger and bigger, no matter who he's in with. I think he wins on Saturday. I think he wins because he has to, because there's just too much money on the line for a slip up with you know, in terms of facing Tyson Fury. I think he's the best I've seen him box was the Ruiz rematch. That and the Parker fight, I think he boxed properly. I think he's got so used down the line to sparking people out and people not getting up within the 10 count that he went for the kill with Ruiz and got caught in an exchange because he had faster hands. I think he will have learned from that because he has to learn from it. And I think I see him employing the same tactics, but I see him getting him out of there mid to late rounds.
No, fair play. I think you know, we all kind of suspect that this Tyson Fury fight is on the horizon, and I think over the last couple of years the tide has turned, whereas you would have said a while ago everyone will fancy AJ for that fight, but the smart money goes on Tyson. I think it's the other way around now. I think most people would probably say Tyson wins that AJ fight if it happens. But I'm personally, as you mentioned the other night on the boxing show that we did, I was so impressed with AJ in his last fight against Ruiz. Maybe he's got that boxing now, and maybe he does cause a problem for Tyson Fury. Yeah,
maybe. I mean, being in there myself, you get a feel for styles and what can be done and what can't be done and what people find difficult and what's easy to fight against. I've always, along the way, there's no doubt in my mind, Tyson Fury is one of the best pure boxers on the planet. He does things that we just don't see heavyweights doing. He's probably the closest thing we've had to Muhammad Ali. And everyone who watches him spar down at Ricky's gym and other gyms say the same thing. He's switch hitter, his feet are unbelievable for a big 18, 19 stone man. But speaking from personal experience, I think I always found it easier to land on lads that were my size or bigger in terms of whether that's height, weight. Joshua's a big fella, and with the likes of Ruiz and Povetkin and people like that, he's punching down. I can relate to that 100%. The sailing under shots. Tyson Fury's a big target. And Joshua's got more to his game and more strings to his bow than somebody like Klitschko had. You know, he's a bit more fluent with his movement. Klitschko was very solid with the jab. His 1-2 was wicked, but you know, Tyson Fury nullified that. Joshua's got a bit more than that. He's a bit more explosive, a bit more fast twitchy. I think that makes for a very interesting fight. But equally, on the flip side, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Tyson Fury box his head off for 12 rounds. It's one of them that we just need to see. Styles make fights. It's a strange one. Fury knocks out Wilder in the second fight, makes pretty light work of him. I think he'd have a harder, this is my opinion, I think he'd have a harder time with Joshua. But then if you put Wilder in with Joshua, I think Wilder gives Joshua problems. It's all Styles. So
no triangle theories here.
Say that again, Chris.
No triangle theories. Just because you beat one doesn't mean you beat this guy.
Exactly, yeah. No, you look at Mayweather, Hatton and Castillo, you know, Mayweather struggles with Castillo twice, Hatton knocks Castillo out, Mayweather knocks Hatton out. It's the way boxing goes, yeah. So got a very interesting fight, possibly 2 fights. You know, there's a lot of money to be made there. They might even have a trilogy. Just hope they do it before it's too late. Yeah.
Sam, who would you go for, AJ or Fury, if that comes up?
It's a tough one because with Fury, he sort of won me over. I think back to his fights with Klitschko and people like that. I've sort of always said, like, I just don't think he's got enough. And then every fight he comes out and he just bamboozles them. And like you're talking about there, in terms of styles, create fights and make fights, that's the sort of thing that I probably don't know much about. Obviously, you guys will, but in terms of styles and how one can sort of beat the other and the technical aspects to it all. But what interests me is the sort of the mentality of boxers. And with Fury, it's like, I just think about people that have gone into the ring with him and they just don't know what to make of him. And I think going back to listening to AJ's sort of interviews and podcasts and whatnot, he talks a lot about how he's constantly thinking in his mind as the fight's going on, how I can maybe, get my in, or which punch I need to select, or what they seem to be doing a lot of that I can counteract. And he's constantly thinking about what the other fighter's going to do. With Fury, I don't know how you sort of read him, and especially during the fight, because one minute he's sort of like dancing around like a lunatic, and the next minute he's jabbing you in the face and looking around, and I just don't know how we deal with that, and the mind games beforehand. I just don't know how all that will pan out, but if I was to call it, if he were to fight, let's say next year, for example, I probably would have to go for Fury because of just the last sort of like 2-3 years and what he's done. But like you say, there's a lot more to it than that.
Just finally, we'll end it on a football note, but kind of on that theme. Tyson Fury is a man who has said on a number of occasions, or certainly had said about him on a number of occasions, he's what you might call a big game player. You look at the Klitschko and the Wilder performances and you think, wow, unbelievable, best I've ever seen. You look at the guys in the middle, the Seferis and the I forget his name, the guy who cut his eye in.
I forget his name as well. Tom Schwartz. Yeah.
And Otis, the German fella. Sam, you all know he's the Eastern European. But you get this idea that for the big boys he shows up, and for the not so much, maybe he can't really get out of bed for them. Sam, do you ever see that in footballers? Do you ever see that in you've heard of these big game players, and they'll turn it on for the, all right, let's kind of put it in our situation. You turn it on for the West Ham game, they get man of the match, but against with all due respect, someone like Bromley, they maybe don't show up. Do you ever see that in football?
I've played against a lot of players that are like that. Not necessarily played with players like that, especially at county. But yeah, there's teams that sort of notorious for it, or players that you sort of look at and you play against and you think, I remember playing you a couple of seasons ago and I couldn't get anywhere near you. And then you play them again and it's the weather might be a bit cold, or the surface might not be great, or whatever it is that's putting them off that day. Like you say, it might be a bit of an up and game to them. And it's a completely different person, and that again just goes back to the mentality of the person. So yeah, I've played against a lot that are like that, and it's hard to sort of understand how you can really be like that, because a game's a game at the end of the day. It depends what you're in it for, but like I say, for me personally, you go into a game and you want to win and you want to perform. There's people that are paying to watch you. I know how much it means to the people of County, and it means to the boys, like I say, to get those successes and get back to where we belong. So for me, it's just, I can't really comprehend how you can turn it on for big games and then not for other games, and it's just a bit alien to me. But yeah, I've played a lot against a lot like that, and like I say, it's hard to understand really.
Matty, I'm assuming you've seen it as well.
Yeah, of course, but I think dead right there, Sam. It does happen, but I think the higher up you go, I think there's less and less of those, because I think they perform week in, week out, because a manager won't have you in if you don't. Relating back to the boxing thing, I think maybe Fury just had one of those hard nights at the office. Going back to the style thing, still found a way to win, but there was a few things that his dad spoke about. Maybe he was underweight a little bit, just a styles clash. Going back to football, different game altogether. You've got 11 lads, and I think if 7, 8, 9 or 10 of you perform, your chances are you're going to win the game. If 5 or 6 you're sort of under par, you're going to draw the game or lose the game. That's normally the pattern. I think the higher up you go, lads perform. That's what people want. They want seasoned pros that can do a job 40 games a season.
I think just to nip in as well, I think that's why it's hard to understand really, because like you say, it's a team sport now that we're talking about, and boxing is obviously individual, but you're letting your teammates down, and that's another thing where, how can you turn up and treat a game differently and not have the same motivation levels when you're letting yourself down, but your teammates are, they're probably looking at you and thinking, what's going on here? This isn't the person we recognise, and that for me is one of the driving factors as well. You don't want to let your mates down, and the lads that you're training every single day with, and you're working so hard towards this point, and and then you just don't fancy it because there's a bit of rain or cold weather or whatever the excuse is. So
yeah,
it's there's a lot of reasons why that shouldn't happen.
You know what wearing on the pitch, are you, Tom?
In training, yeah, and weirdly I wear gloves, but I don't wear a hat, which is weird. Like that doesn't make much sense. But I'm just when it comes to game day, though, I try and stay traditional with it all and act like the man. But yeah, it's even at Barney, it was a cold surface, it was a cold day and a cold night and stuff. But once you're playing, you're into it then, and then it's just game on.
They're the title-winning games, aren't they? The 4-hour travelling on a Tuesday night. You know, you go there, do a job.
That's it.
Come back. It's easy to play at Ridgway Park on a Saturday, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm what they call a big podcast player, so I don't show up for the little ones. But
I am these days, Chris, as well.
I'll let you make your own mind up on Ireland. But listen, Sam, it's been a treat having you on. We kept you on a little longer, pre-agreed, we should say, but it was. Listen, mate, you're always welcome back, and it's good things at County at the moment, and long may they continue.
Yeah, and I'm sure they will do, mate. I'm sure they will. And thanks for asking me on as well anytime.
No worries, mate. We'll see you at the weekend against Bussum.
Top man, Sam. Keep up the good work, pal.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, Chris.
Top man.
Cheers, lads.